Hey, what's up, y'all? It's your main man, Killer B, goddamn Witchfinder General. You got a witch y'all burn their asses up every goddamn time. We got a great show for y'all today. It's on the slave ship, the so-called slave ship, the Wanderer. And we're going to talk about the survivors of the ship and some things they had to say, where they come about, where they came from, and their interaction and stuff amongst other Africans and their interaction with the so-called European. So with that, we're going to get into the show. Hope all of y'all have a good time, get y'all drinks, and whatever else y'all get to relax and stuff. And I hope you tune in. And we can have some fun tonight. And I'm going to be giving out a free PDF. So I'm going to share some of the research and stuff that I read. It's only right for me to hit y'all up with it too. So with that, let's get this intro on the way, and I'll be right back. All right. Talk to you soon. Be right back. This is crazy. Thank you. This is weird. Oh, there it is. Top. All right, here's it.
This man showed no mercy in the pursuit and interrogation of his victims. He was called the Witchfinder General.
Witchfinding ain't easy. Funky trick one. Get this one. Y'all can get your heads lined, spin away like prison. Intelligence agencies tracing. Seeing what I did lately, amazing. They not seeing all the sheep grazing. Flaming pins of Josh, get rocked. Mountaintops go fly. Right enough, fight enough. Yet I'm so nice when I expose. Fuck y'all clothes, costume shop roll. Catch info like a stroll. Feeling old, so grab the switch. I'ma scold my foes cause they snitch. Since they can't do with me, I'ma do with them. That chopped off head will still spin. Burn witches in they sin. You can't lie, you can't die. I know what y'all said. Just as flesh decay, but eternity, I don't see it that way. Pave the road clear is what you said, but your cult gonna leave people dead. Claim God, but God don't know you. Watch your desires overthrow you. Man fall down, man go boom. Mask wearing like doom. All caps like y'all yelling. That's a rap. Might as well be felons. Y'all words are levels. On YouTube, acting precious. This the nexus. Feel the sun from the solar plexus. Taste the breakfast. Finding all those devices that detect us. Yo, show respect, cuz.
And what line of business might you be in? God's business? Witchfinding? Witchfinding. Oh, that's
y'all believe what that next was. Or some love. Watch the general pull bloods. Internet warriors caught up in dark corridors. Fiction like Mordor. Should've stayed on the floor. Y'all know no origins. Laughing orphans, even though we got royal blood coursing. No more horsing. Real life's more important. Y'all speaking cursors on yourself, claiming God and no one else. Blast you off the shelf. Burn your whole library. I see you do it, look, y'all claim and learn, reading from the Jewish books. Y'all some cooking crooks, lips caught up with a hook. Spooky beats drive me wild. Get stabbed, a knife from the child. Old man, old style. Used to put kelp out the Nile, and I did it with a smile. Fake roots, smell vile. Rock like Hendrix at the aisle. After a while, see gypsies on the trial. Yeah, you, the one claiming proof. Unglued and unglued, expose they actions fully. Yeah, call me a bully, but that's fine. This is how you get bullied straight from the mind. Burning cats out there, have faith. Y'all have faith. They read all this, they know all this. Claiming they speaking languages, cursing.
Be the first to see it. Be the first to talk about it. The Witchfinder General.
All right. So, we can get into this thing here. First of all, since I don't have it typed up on this account here, I'd like to thank all my supporters out there that helped me financially in joining the streams and stuff. Brainstorm Homeschool Academy, Maggie Springfield, Josh, Siberius the Sleeping Serpent, and there's one more I think I'm forgetting. I'm sorry, I forgot. Somebody else, I forgot. Maybe somebody else, I forgot. But my bad, y'all know who he is. I'll get you next time. Give you 2 shout outs. All right, so yeah, my Facebook is going crazy. One second. People are weird. I got a lot of weird people. I'm gonna start just not like responding to a lot of the stupid stuff. The reason I'm doing these videos too, I want to give you guys a head start. You know what I mean? I want to give you guys the proper information to get this history out there, to learn this history and stuff that about our people. And it's your job. I'm not here to do it for you. I'm here just to give you a little head start and to share what I'm reading and what I'm researching myself and the things that I come across myself. A lot of times I'm on here, I'm reading stuff to you guys, I'm researching stuff on the fly with you guys on the screen. So if you guys are really serious about this and stuff, I'm just giving you guys a head start. And there's just a lot of weird stuff, but I'm not going to talk about it on this video. Just try to keep this video information. After I do the show, you know, we can act a fool. People can come on and stuff and interact with me, questions, and I don't know, you can tell me how much you hate me and all types of stuff, right? I don't see any reason to hate me, but there seems to be people that find a way to do it. try to find a reason. So what we're going to be talking about tonight is the ship called the Wanderer. And it is known as one of the last slave ships in the Americas. We can find some very mysterious things about the Wanderer ship. Like I said, it was supposedly the last importation of slaves or last slave ship in the Americas. As we know, slavery was ended. I said 1802, but a lot of sources are saying 1806. It might have been presented in 1802, but wasn't signed until 1806. I believe that's what it is. Once again, anything you guys find wrong or something, excuse me, anything, anything that I say or anything like, feel free to correct me. What the hell was that? I'm doing my stream in another location in the house today, so there might be some added noise and stuff from the outside. Shout out to Brain Store with us tonight. What else I was gonna say? Yeah, I'm gonna be giving out a free ebook. Yeah, I'm okay. Oh, yeah, I'm fine. It's up to my normal shenanigans. And yeah, we're gonna get into this ship, and there were supposedly, now notice I say supposedly, survivors from the ship, And what I found was pretty. Let me turn off this Facebook. I'm gonna have this shit. What I found is that a lot of these slaves, people know where these slaves come from. A lot of slaves, the later slaves that came over here too, actually had their language still. A lot of them could tell us where they came from. So we're going to get into a lot of that today. We're going to get into a lot of that African language and the African American version, how they said those words here. And shut up, Amber. A lot of the language that, basically the African language and how it was sounded in America, right? We're going to get into that. And we're going to get into the life of these surviving slaves in Africa, right? What was going on in Africa and what these Africans were doing with the slaves and what the Africans were doing with their visitors, right? So y'all stay tuned for this. Everyone's stupid. About time you up in here and shit. About time you up in here. Want me to get on you here. But yeah, there's gonna be some very interesting information. So without that, we're gonna get started here. All right. I want to eat this honey bun first. Hold on. All right, we're going to learn a little bit about the Wanderer ship first, right? Then we're going to get into good stuff. All right, the Wanderer was supposedly a illegal slave ship. Like I say, slavery, the importation of slaves in the United States was big long before this ship was built and supposedly coming back into the ports of America, Georgia. So let me read this little thing here first, and we get on further the show. Said the Wanderer was a documented ship to bring illuminated. Well, shit. First thing I should do is learn this word before I start the show. Never heard of it. All right, this shit's acting crazy. So. All right. Can't look it up. This thing's acting crazy. All right, it was a ship to bring an illegal cargo of people from Africa into the United States, landing at Jekyll's Island in Georgia on November 28th, 1858. It was the last to carry a large cargo, arriving with some 400 people. The Clotilda, which transported 110 people from the Humming in 1860. Is the last known ship to bring. So the last known ship to bring enslaved people from Africa to the United States was the Clotilda, right? And it brought in 110 people, right, from Africa in 1860. Originally built, the Wanderer was originally built in New York as a pleasure schooner, right? Those of you that watched some of my past videos, I believe it was the slave trade, or something like that. I noticed a ship on the thumbnail, and I go into it on the one with thumbnail was 1776. If you go to the lessons playlist and roll back, you'll see it. The slave ships were built to go fast. At that time, the slaves, it was illegal to export and import slaves. And I got my hands full here. And it was illegal. So they didn't have the resources like we have today to guard our ports, to guard our seashores. There was a lack of military vessels and stuff like that. So at some point, it was happening. The importation of slaves was happening under the radar, and to have a fast ship was the key because you could get away from the Coast Guard and military and stuff like that. So these smaller, fast-moving boats and maneuverable boats were the choice. And it was also the choice of the pirates. A lot of pirates hijacked slave ships to steal the money that was on there and take the captives of those slave ships and turn them into workers and sharing a lot of their wealth with other ships that they captured with these slaves. Like I said, it was originally built in New York as a pleasure schooner. The Wanderer was purchased by Southern businessman Charles Augustus Lafayette Lamar. Remember that last name, Lamar. And an investment group, and used in a conspiracy to import kidnapped people illegally. The Atlantic slave trade had been prohibited under the U.S. law since 1808. The estimated 409 enslaved people survived the voyage from the Congo to Georgia. Reports of the smuggling outraged the North. The federal government prosecuted Lamar and other investors, the captain and crew, in 1860, but failed to win a conviction. We're gonna go into depth with that trial and why these people were released. During the American Civil War, Union forces took over the ship and used it for various military roles. It was decommissioned in 1865, converted to merchant use, and lost off Cuba in 1871. In November 2008, the Jekyll Island Museum unveiled an exhibit dedicated to the enslaved Africans on Wanderer. That month also marked the unveiling of memorial sculpture of Southern Jekyll Island dedicated to the enslaved people who landed there. All right. Illustration. So we get to some parts. I don't want to read everything. Okay. Wanderer was built in New York, Long Island shipyard in 1857 as a pleasure craft for Colonel John Johnson. The vessel's streamlined design allowed the ships to achieve speeds up to 20 knots, which is like 23 miles per hour, making Wanderer one of the fastest ships of the day. While on a trip to New Orleans, Johnson stopped in Charleston, South Carolina, and sold the Wanderer to William C. Corey. Corey became a partner with wealthy businessman and cotton planter Charles Lamar, remember Lamar, the son of Buck Gazaway Lamar, from Savannah, Georgia. He was hired to transport slaves from Africa, although such importation had been prohibited since 1808. So now it says 1808, whatever. By federal law. Corey achieved some elements of conversion, but much of the work was accomplished after the ship reached an Angolan port. Both men opposed the restrictions on importing slaves, right? So both of these men, they opposed the restrictions on importing slaves. As demand drove a high price for domestic slaves, the Wanderer was returned to New York to undergo preparation for a large voyage. Some observers accused the shipyard of preparing it as a slave ship. The ship was inspected and cleared on its voyage out. Public rumors of the ship being involved in the slave trade persisted and were permanently associated with her name, right? So it's this public rumor of the ships being involved in the slave trade. Now, the ship was built not as a slave ship. It was built as a yacht, right? And in the ship's log, it says Corey noted arriving in Benguela, which is Angola, on 1858. The Wanderer took on 487 slaves between the Congo and Benguela, which is located 40 miles south of the Congo River. After 6-week return voyage, now it took 6 weeks for the ship to reach from Africa to the Americas. 6 weeks. You know, a lot of people out there saying 6 months. I don't know where they get that shit from. The ships today take across the Pacific, I believe it takes 4 weeks. It takes 1 month. I know because I've done importing overseas and stuff like that. It takes 4 months for your cargo to reach by ship from, you know what I'm saying, Asia to America. They were landed in Jekyll Island, which was owned by John and Henry du Bigon Jr., who conspired with Lamar. These features present a slightly higher mortality rate than the estimated of 12% owned by John and Henry du Bigon Jr. Oh, I'm sorry. Were estimated an average of 12% during the illegal slave trade era. So it was common for the slave ships to lose 12% of the cargo, or 12% of their slaves would die in the voyage. Hoping to evade arrest, Lamar had the slaves shipped to markets in Savannah, Augusta, Georgia, South Carolina, and Florida. As the federal government investigated, news of the slave ship raised outrage in the North. Southerners pressed Congress to reopen the Atlantic slave trade. So with this controversy, you know, they banned the importation, but a lot of the Southerners and stuff were lobbying to bring back the importation of slaves. You see here. The federal government tried Lamar and his conspirators 3 times for piracy, right? And if I'm not mistaken, the video that I did before was saying that a lot of this piracy stuff was the penalty for it was hanging. So there was a death penalty on this stuff, but was unable to get a conviction. So 3 times the federal government went at these people, right? But was unable to get a conviction. It failed to convince a jury of a connection between Lamar and the ship, right? So that's why, right? You guys can dig up more on this with your own research. The arrival of the Wanderer prompted the Buchanan administration to strengthen the United States' role in anti-slave trade efforts, following the dispersion and sale of 400 Africans throughout the South. There were rumors of subsequent slave ships landing in that region. The Buchanan administration sent a secret agent named Benjamin F. Slocum on a 2-month journey to search for evidence. Slocum, working undercover, spoke with slave traders, plantation owners, and townspeople, hunting down every possible lead. In the end, he delivered a detailed report in which he concluded that the rumors of subsequent landings were found upon the movements of the Wanderer Negroes, or else they were mere fabrications, right? So these Wanderer Negroes are the people that came on that ship. They were called the Wanderer Negroes. Were mere fabrications manufactured and circulated for political effect, or to fill a column of a sensational newspaper. Now, so we see here, this ship was known to some people as a slave, as a ship, that a yacht that was turned into a slave ship. They said that the ship was fabricated, you know what I'm saying, when it reached Africa and was converted into carrying slaves as cargo. Turn my mic. All right, I hope my mic went up a little bit, but you know, stays up. Okay. All right. The slaves who arrived in the United States on the Wanderer gained a celebrity status. The events were covered by newspapers in New York, Washington, and London. They were the only group of slaves who were frequently identified with the ship on which they had been transported, right? They were the only group of slaves that was identified by the ship that they came on, right? So, like, if a slave might have been in South Carolina, they'd be like, yo, this is one of these Wanderer slaves, like one of the Wanderer Negroes that came on the Wanderer ship, right? They said it was 400 or something that came on. They were the only group of slaves who were frequently identified with the ship on which they had been transported. The tendency of newspapers and private correspondence to identify the slaves in this way suggests there were no other known large-scale importations of African slaves in this period, right? So what they're saying here, since they were so well known and they were labeled as slaves coming from the ship, it puts the suggestion out that there weren't many other ships that were importing at the time, or they would be named after these ships also. But the Clotilda returned in July 1860 from Damoni to Mobile Bay, Alabama, with a cargo about 110 surviving slaves. The ship was scuttled, and for a time, the smuggling was hidden. In January 2018, it was reported that the ruins of the ship were discovered, which may be Clotilda. It is the last known ship to have carried slaves to the U.S. before the Civil War, right? They supposedly found that. Like, there's some people out there that says that slavery didn't happen. Dane Calloway is one. That there were no slave ships and stuff. A lot of these slave ships were turned into merchant ships and other stuff like afterwards. After, the 1808 and stuff like that. And if anything was brought in, it was brought in illegally. So a ship from the 1700s is more than likely not going to be a surviving ship today. And these ships are not just going to be sitting around as historical landmarks. These ships were put to use after the slavery. They might have been bringing in bananas. They might have been taking cotton to Europe or whatever. You know what I mean? So these ships and stuff after time, they had other purposes. And there was a drastic amount of time for these ships to transform into different things. Right. Like the Wanderer itself was changed into a different type of vessel. Said most historians long believed that the Wanderer was the last slave ship to reach the U.S., including W.E.B. Du Bois in his book, The Suppression of the African Slave Trade to the United States of America, from 1638 to 1870. But the schooner Clotilda landed slaves in 1860, and it is the last known ship to bring captives to the U.S. So what W.D. Du Bois was saying, the Wanderer was the last ship, but history and stuff said it was the Clotilda. In 2008, the state of Georgia erected a monument to Wanderer's African survivors on the south tip of Jekyll Island. The monument consists of 3 12-foot steel sails and several historical storyboards. On November 25th, 2008, the dedication of the memorial was held, attended to 500 participants, including descendants of the slaves carried by Wanderer. Eric Colonius, author of The Wanderer, the last slave trade ship in the conspiracy that set its sails. He is credited with reviving interest in the story of the Wanderer. Right? So, this event supposedly had descendants of these slaves. All right? What we're going to learn, too, that there really is no evidence of the slave importing the ships, right? Now, whether they did or didn't, there were some people that were labeled as coming from that ship, right? And what's going to be interesting about this video is what I'm going to say about these slaves, right? It's probably going to hurt a lot of the cult feelings and stuff, and a lot of this regular Afrocentric ideology and stuff. A lot of the things I've personally seen, I'm not saying they go out and do this, but things I've personally seen them use to solidify their claims, right? All right. So I read that there. Let me go on to this main part. See what the chat saying. What up, Benny Man? Yeah, you made it this time. Crystal clear? Wow, that's crazy. All right. Share my screen here. All right. This is coming from Anthrosource Online Library, Wally.com. Survivors from the Congo, the Negro Slave Yacht Wanderer by Charles J. Montgomery. All right. I'm not going to read this whole thing. I'm going to end up sharing this with you guys at the end of the show. I'll put it in the chat here for you that are viewing, and I'm going to put it in the comments after the show. The story of the Wanderer, which began a career of a pleasure yacht and ended as a slaver, has been told before, but little has been said of the human freight which is brought to this country from the coast of Africa. And it is to this that our attention is here directed. It may be recalled that the year 1858, when the yacht sailed across the Atlantic with the only cargo that it ever secured, was little more than a half century after importation of slaves into the United States had been prohibited by Congress. And I'll start right there too. That's another thing that a lot of these black power people, the whole Afrocentric thing. I don't mean to keep bringing it up, but they never talk about the importation of slaves being stopped. The agenda, like they try to push that America as a government was extremely racist. The way they would paint it is that basically the United States government were basically beating these slaves, killing these slaves. When the truth is, the founding fathers of this country, a lot of them, majority of them, spoke against slavery. Some of them might have been slaveholders, but spoke against slavery at the same. Check some of my other videos on more on that. Okay. And at that time, when it was treated as piracy by uncivilized nations, especially by Great Britain in this country. During this period, however, numbers of vessels were engaged illegally in the African slave trade, frequently crossing the Atlantic from the shores of some of our enterprising maritime states to obtain cargoes from the African coast at the risk of seizure and confiscation of the vessel so engaged by men of war of the government seeking to prevent it, and the subsequent punishment of the owners and the crews. Some of the slave ships were captured, others eluded the vigilance of the watchdogs of the sea and have obtained their cargoes would steer for some friendly port, right? So you would have, just like today, right? You got people importing drugs and stuff into the United States. They might have people working at these ports. Y'all see it on TV shows and movies and stuff, right? The shipments coming in, they gotta have somebody working at the dock that's gonna be able to let some cargo go without that being documented or something, like, you know what I mean? So these things were going on long ago. I read before in other videos on how people were getting money to get people to work on ships and how they would trick people, black, white, whatever, whoever it was, on the ship. And the ship would take off, and there are permitted by law that they're on this ship to work. Right? So there's a lot of crazy stuff going on in the maritime industry. Importation and exportation. Some of the slave ships were captured, others eluded the villages of the watchdogs of Canada. As our Navy became more vigilant in our lookout for vessels laden with slaves, Brazil seems to have been the slavers' destination during the latter years, at least, of this period, as perhaps involving less risk and at the same time affording a demand for slave labor. So while the Middle Passage would receive during the voyage the body of many a poor wretch stifled by the foul air of the hold, after being nearly starved by bad and insufficient food, yet those surviving would bring a price that would more than repay the trafficker from a solely monetary standpoint, right? So these slaves at this time were worth a lot more money. I believe, I'm just saying off the top of my head, correct me if I'm wrong, the slaves averaged around like $400, $600, $800 or something like that. At this time, it was ranging at like $3,000, $4,000 for a slave. Prayer of the Little Wanderer was somewhat unique. First pleasure yacht of the fleet of the New York Yacht Club. It was later, now this ship sailed off when it first sailed from the docks. It sailed off as a yacht boat it had the flag of the Yacht Club. It was later transformed and sent on its unlawful errand by one or more prominent citizens of the South. Disembarked its cargo on the coast of Georgia. It was promptly seized by representatives of the United States government, but not for the Negroes had been scattered and most of them sold, right? So they done let off the cargo before they even hit shore where they be inspected. You know, you hit U.S. docks, customs and stuff, but want to know what's in your ship, what you got up in there. And it can be inspected if they feel that they need to, right? But you ain't got no choice over it. I had packages seized before by customs coming from China, and you gotta wait. One of them, the FDA took. So customs had it. I tried to get it. By the time I tried to get it, the FDA seized it. So now I'm at the mercy of the FDA. I'm contacting the FDA. They're like, yo, you just wait until we release it, if we release it. And they ain't nothing to talk about. They're not going to ask you shit. Nothing. So they took my shipment. It was released, but I had to wait almost a month to get my package, right? After all the proper paperwork was sent and stuff like that. So this whole importation thing is a big thing. Now, these are people in America with money, businessmen. Hey, we go get some of these slaves, we make a good flip. How are we gonna do it? We can't make no slave shit. Somebody get a bright idea. We'll make a big ass yacht. And then we'll fix it up as a slave ship as we going across the water. You know what I'm saying? So, and on the way back, they stop at some friendly ports, let some slaves off, let some slaves off here, let some slaves off here. They got people to pick up their cargo. This is how you would have here in America. I might have a shipment coming over that's going to 5 different places in the United States. I got to have a carrier that's going to pick up my cargo, and this part of the cargo is going to go here. This part's going to go here. It's a big thing, right? And there's a lot of money involved with it. It may be added that the prosecution of some of the offenders was promptly undertaken, conducted on behalf of the government by Assistant Attorney General Henry R. Jackson, who later became the Brigadier General in the Confederate Army. And some years after the Civil War, served as minister to Mexico. And the prosecution, he was assisted by District Attorney Joseph Ganal, an able lawyer and fearless to the discharge of his duties. General Jackson sought from those in power to Washington at the time to have conducted a general investigation of the slave trade as carried on by citizens of the United States, so that prosecutions might be begun against all the lawbreakers wherever found. The trial of the Wanderer case resulted in the confiscation of the yacht, but not in the punishment of the owner or the crew. Returning to the Negroes themselves, the question suggests itself: from what part of Africa did they come, and what tribe did they represent? It is known that the cargo was obtained near the mouth of the Congo, but they must have been collected there from different tribes living in different parts of the continent. It is said that some could not understand the language of other Negroes in the group. Their complexion, and to some extent, their physiology, and their size vary considerably. It would be interesting to note if some came from the tribes visited by Livingstone and mentioned in the account of his famous journey through South Africa, which he made only a few years before the Wanderer brought its load of, listen what they said, savages from the coast of their native land. Now, y'all might say, goddamn savages, you call the motherfucking niggas savages? Now, these people said savages, right? Let's see what y'all said. Oh shit, fuck it up. Hold on, my bad. Screwing up here. Wrong shit. Damn. Fucking up, showing all the goods. Hold on. Oh shit. All right. Here we go. That's right. I mean, I went and did it again. Shit. Hey, yo, keyboard strip. Yo, this is crazy. Check out my chat. Two people up in here. Shit, good. Good. I'll stay stupid. All right, here we go. Ah, damn. Bullshit ass keys, man. It's stupid. All right, I'm getting it. All right, here we go. All right, savages. That's where I left off. Yeah, brought its load of savages from the coast of their native land. Some of these very individuals may have come out of the straw houses to see and converse with the scientific explorer. So there was a man, Livingston. I gotta look him up. I should have did that before I started the show. This man went through the heart of Africa and stuff and wrote his